This video shows you how to make a breakout board for a surface mount part at home. You need perfor board, some pin headers. I like to use a pick, my tweezers, and a good X-Acto, and then some copper tape. So once you've got your perfor board to size, I use a Dremel to cut it down from the larger pieces. You then need to size up your copper tape. And you want a good fit on it. This board's mostly square, so you don't have to worry about too much direction and orientation. And I made it a little bit bigger. It only need to be 7 pins, and I went ahead and did the full grid that I was given in the silk screen. Once you've got it cut to size, you just apply it to the top side, not the side that's already got the copper on it, but the top. Whoop. There you go. Just push it on there nice and tight. Right. Now take your pin headers, stick them in, and press them up. And you can see they make little indentions. That just lets you know where you need to push through. You just pop it through like that. You made your holes. You can wiggle it around a little bit and make sure the tape doesn't get pushed back through. And then if you stick it in, oops, one too far down. Stick it in. Focus, alright. You can see they come right through the tape perfect. Go ahead and do that with the other side. Oops. And if your tape peels up, just push it back down. And stick it through again. See if I can get it this time. Yep, there we go. You can see, just goes right through. Perfect. Okay. The next thing I do, take my X-Acto, see about how wide the surface mount part is sitting on it. I just mark some little lines on it. If you make your lines straight, you can try to line them up with the holes, and then simply follow the holes down. You need to mash kind of hard to make sure that your X-Acto digs through the copper all the way. It'll make lines in it, and it turns out it didn't cut it. You can see up at the corner it's not cut. Once you got started, just pull it on off. Next thing I do is put a little dab of solder at the corner to hold it in place, so I can mark out where I'd like my tracks to go. So give me a second. In this part, you can use a Sharpie if you like. Usually you want to use a nice fine tip Sharpie, not one of the fat tips. Or you can just take your X-Acto, and when you look at the copper, I'll mark it up in the corner. Just make a little line, and you can very easily see it. It's not going to mar the copper at all, or at least not cut through it and make you lose connection. See what my soldering iron's doing. Now something handy to do, if you look at where your holes are, focus, alright, you're going to line these holes up, the middle holes with the middle holes. That way your furthest tracks are the outside ones, because if you line it up on the top, then this one's got to go way on down to the bottom. That appears to be about center. Just solder and bit this. Yep, perfect. Okay. Just draw your line. Doesn't have to be perfect. The finer pitch you begin to go, the more exact you need to be. I believe this to be a 2mm gap pitch, if you will, opposed to the 2.54 your standard breadboard. So I can be a little sloppy with it. There we go. You can see the lines just drawn nicely on there. Just mark the bottom and the top, designating where my chip was. Okay. I like to go ahead and put it on a breadboard. Take your headers and put them in. Line them up. Let's see. Go into these holes. Go and solder just the end ones. Be generous with it. Make sure you make good contact. Ooh, there we go. Yeah. Okay. Now we're to this point. We can go ahead and make our cuts. You just want to cut a little track. Bring it at least to where you've marked. Make sure you press hard. And then I straighten up. And just go straight at that point. And go over. And about the width of in between these. There we go. And I'm going to pull off the first one. And I recommend you do as well when you're just learning it. And you got yourself a nice little gap in between. And do it for the next one. And bring it on in. There you go. You can see our first little trace coming in. And I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the cuts all at once. And if the solder's thin enough, you can just cut right through with the X-Acto. There we go. If you grab your piece and look, all your pins or holes, whatever you're putting on, should line up perfect. Oh yeah. Just flip it over and do the other side. And the reason I said bring the pick out, it may not be necessary for you, but to get these started, you just grab your pick and usually scratch up the ends. That will save you the trouble of scratching it with your tweezers. Check to make sure this lines up on this side. Okay, that all looks good. From here, I cut it. I've marked from the chip so you know the edges. I go in a little further. So you just cut a nice line along it, making sure to go in from your chip some. And then remove those pieces. Okay. Now all that's left is to solder it on. Doing it up here. Okay, check all the alignments up. Everything looks good. Solder the other corner. Alright. Rosin, just make it easier. Okay. Just get a little bit on the end. Just maybe a little bit down on there. Make sure you solder not only to the component, but also to your leg, pin header. And all this soldering to it's going to weaken the glue holding the copper tape on. So it's nice to make a connection all the way with solder from your pin header all the way to the chip. Perfect. And there you go. Take a little alcohol and wipe off the excess rosin if you like. But there you go. Homemade breakout board.